Namandabats, 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 namandabats.
A very beautiful and good morning to OCBC Sangha and all our Dharma friends who are joining us virtually on YouTube. Today's October 3rd, and it's welcoming you to our family service. Reverend John Turner will be leading the chanting, and somebody named Ron Tabor will be giving the Dharma message and also being the MC. The service order will be Sambu Jo first, followed by Jusei Gay, and then we'll have a musical offering, selected sayings, Dharma talk, selected sayings, and some brief announcements. Thank you for attending.
Namandabats, 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 namandabats. 야곤 조생안 해심을 조도 싱안 푸만조 세프 조쇼가 가 오무려코 부인나이 세슈 부사이 쇼빙구 세프 조쇼가 가시 조분도 묘쇼 조지포 극교미쇼몬 세프 조쇼가 리오쿠진 쇼넨 조에슈봉요 시금을 조도 이쇼텐인시 진리키 엔다이코 부쇼무사이도 쇼조산 금요 고사이슈 야쿠난 가이이치에겐 메시코모안 해소쿠쇼 아쿠도 츠단젠슈몬 고소조만조 이요로지포 니치간슈주키 텐코 온푸겐 이슈카이 호조 고세쿠도쿠호 조오나이슈주 세포시시쿠 그요 이사이붓 그소쿠슈 토쿠혼 간내신조만 토쿠 이상가이오 뇨붓무게치 츠단미푸쇼 강가쿠 에리 도시사이쇼손 시간야코카 다이센 오칸도 고쿠쇼텐닌 도으침묘게 나만다부 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 간니시크도쿠 묘도세이사이 도혼보나이신 오조 아멘 Namandavats, 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 namandavats.
It's been quite a while since I've chanted, and I'm surprised I still remember how. While you were chanting, I hope you had the chance to notice the three beautiful flowers on the Naijing here. We'd like to thank Janet Sakahara, Janet Arima, and of course our own Reverend Wandra, Mutsumi Wandra. They came in on Friday and did a beautiful, beautiful job with the flowers. I haven't seen flowers for so long. The next, we'll have a musical offering, and it'll be performed by the Cherry Blossoms. And I think you'll recognize them right away because they were here at OCBC. Lisa, Emily, and Miko. And they'll be singing and performing a composition inspired by Thich Nhat Hanh from Please Call Me by My True Names. So, the Cherry Blossoms.
My pain is like
Thank you, Cherry Blossoms. That was very beautiful. We'll now have a reading of the selected saying. Please join your hands together in Gasho. The secret of health for both body and mind is not to mourn for the past, not to worry about the future, and not to anticipate troubles, but to live wisely and earnestly for the present. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. 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 So now we come to the portion that I look forward to when I'm sitting in the Geijin or on the Naijin, but not when I'm standing at the podium. But it's been an interesting year and a half. So I thought I would try and put together some thoughts with some help from some quotes that sustained me during the past year and a half. And I'm calling it Making Sense of Today's New Normal. Now, quite a few years ago when I was a working person and the weekend would come, I wish it would go on and on and on. I didn't want to go back to work on Monday. I think I'm quite satisfied now that I've had a year and a half weekend. And one of the things that crept up during this pandemic was the rise of an online application called Zoom. And many of us had to get familiar with it rather quickly because almost everything moved into a virtual space. And there were an awful lot of jokes and snide remarks about getting acclimated to Zoom and how it performed. And most of the bugs have been worked out. And I would get many, many emails in my inbox with all these jokes and one-liners. And one of them was a Zoom tip. And to me, it was the best Zoom tip I've ever heard of. When you're on Zoom and you want some liquid refreshment, use a mug, because people will think you're drinking coffee or tea, when in reality, if you're me, it's probably full of white wine. Or maybe you prefer sake, or something else. Use a mug, and they think you're sipping tea. Okay, let's move into the Dharma talk. I'm going to start by giving you some of my favorite quotes that have sustained me during the last year and a half. Actually, I think about them all the time, but they became very relevant during the shutdown and what we've been witnessing in our society. Now, the first one is from a French mathematician and philosopher and a Catholic theologian. Of course, he was Catholic, he was French. His name is Blaise Pascal. And he had a very short life. He lived only 39 years, and when I found that out, I immediately thought of our son Andrew, who almost made it to age 39. He died at age 38. Just a few months shy of his birthday, which would have been this month, October 30th. Pascal said, all of humanity's problems, all of our problems stem from our inability to sit quietly in a room alone. So think of the shelter at home portion of the pandemic. Now we're out about, hopefully all vaccinated, wearing masks, still practicing social distancing, but prior to that, we were confined to our house, our four walls. a house that we paid a lot of money for, that we now got to spend some time in. And me being the introvert, the super introvert, it didn't bother me. But I can imagine if you were an extrovert, it was a very, very trying time. And of course, what happened after the lockdown was lifted, people burst out, celebrated. In some countries and cities, there were riots and destruction. It's a whole new world out there. Now, back to our son Andrew. I'm going to quote some words that he wrote in the year 1986. He was born in 1973, so he was 12 or 13. I'm not sure what month he composed these lines. And he wrote, at the age of 12 or 13, light shining, stunning glare, torch of all life, sun. Now, I'm 75 years old, and I have yet to write anything that profound. I just couldn't believe it. And he went on to become a journalist and a writer, and I kind of knew from those words, they almost sound like haiku to me. Light shining, stunning glare, torch of all life, sun. And it was the word light that got my attention because of all the symbols that we use in Shin Buddhism. Do you know which is considered the most important? Of course you do, I already told you. It is light. Unlimited light, unlimited wisdom, symbolized by Amida Buddha. Amida Buddha simply symbolizes wisdom, Buddha wisdom. One of my favorite teachers, Dr. Nobu Haneda, we were driving back from Vista. He gave a seminar down there, and I was his chauffeur. And during our conversation, we were talking about what is Buddhism, what is a Buddhist. And he said some words, and then I looked it up, and it's from an essay that he wrote titled Liberation by Limitless Light, Wisdom. And this is the words from that essay. Buddhism, a religion of wisdom, not a teaching of being saved by gods or by external powers. A teaching of wisdom. So if you're on the Buddhist path or you wish to follow the Buddhist path, you have to understand what is meant by Buddhist wisdom. Unhindered, unlimited light. Continuing with the quotes from the Dhammapada. The Dhammapada is a little book, perhaps the closest we Buddhists have to a Bible, quote unquote. In 26 chapters, 423 verses, it contains the teachings of the path, expressing the insight of an authentic human being who suffered, practiced the way, experienced transformation, and achieved liberation. Transformation and then liberation. So from chapter 3, titled The Mind, verse 10, a mind out of control will do more harm than two angry men engaged in combat. Think about those few words for a moment and what you've been witnessing in our society or in the world. How people have reacted to the best intentions of public health officials, CDC officials, governments. It's something that I cannot fathom. However, that little verse explains why we humans can do more harm because if our minds are not under control. Now, moving on to chapter 22, which is called State of Woe, verses 13 and 14. Verse 13 says, "Some see what is right as wrong, and what is wrong as right. Holding such false views, they go to a sorrowful state." I don't need to explain that really, because all you have to think of is to mask, not to mask, to vaccinate, to not vaccinate. Verse 14, "Those who say wrong is wrong and right is right hold right views and go to a joyful state." Now the key word in there is right views. However, I want to caution all of you, this is not a license to be arrogant or to feel superior or to boost your self-pride. Just because you are a Buddhist and you tell people you are a Buddhist, you got to be careful what you mean by that and how you think about being a Buddhist. I think too many people in Buddhism, particularly converts, American Buddhists, think that Buddhism is a superior path to other religions. And if you have that thought in your mind, you have the wrong idea of the Buddhist path. So, having shared the above, leads us to my topic today. The first step on the Eightfold Path to happiness. Actually, I dislike the word happiness, but that is what is in our Shin service book. But may I humbly suggest replacing happiness with transformation and liberation. So I'm sure you know what the first step is. If you don't worry. I had to look it up too to be sure. The first step of the Noble Eightfold Path is right view or right understanding. So from our service book, quote, "To keep free of prejudice and superstition and to see the true nature of life," unquote. And I believe it is the most important one because it is trying to teach us, to show us how we are conditioned to think, to see, to understand the world dualistically. And it is so difficult to transcend dualistic concepts, to see without comparisons, good versus bad, right versus wrong, civilized versus uncivilized, creator and created, God and us, reward and punishment, winners and losers, and so on and so on. We live in a culture, a world of morality, and either or, always in conflict and competition. You either win or you lose. So how can we expect to coexist and become one in a world where there is always competition, conflict, fear, and feelings of mistrust, leading to all sorts of psychological complexes? Some more words from a Buddhist text called the Prancha Paramita Sutra. All views are perverted views. No view is the right view. Said another way, no attachments to labels or identities, no indulgence in any form of self-love, self-enhancement. All views are perverted views. No view is the right view. So it is so easy to put dualistic thinking in a critical spotlight, and it's so difficult to offer a turnkey fix, something over the counter, over the rainbow, We all want only positive goodness in our lives, and we dislike negative happenings and negative emotions. I certainly do. It's what I struggle with every day. But now a caveat. I am not saying human knowledge or human wisdom, known as dualistic reasoning, is the source of all human problems. After all, it's basic and indispensable in our daily life. Cannot be eliminated. But what can be eliminated, or at least minimized, is our attachment to only positive values. If we can begin to see value in the negative events, then perhaps we can find meaning, make sense of all the emotions we are currently experiencing. So let me give you a very, very simple example. Traffic lights, red light, green light. Of course, red light is negative. Green light is positive. And we feel very good when the light is green and we sail through the intersection, a sigh of relief, let the others wait. But if the light turns red, our positive feelings now turn negative. And we probably utter a few choice words under our breath while we impatiently wait for our turn to go again. My initials are RLT, Ron or Ronald Lee Tabor, RLT. And because I'm a mellow, slow, very slow person, I tend to drive the same way. And so I usually get more than my share of red lights. So I call myself Red Light Tabor, RLT, Red Light Tabor. And have you ever noticed when you're kind of early for an appointment and you don't really mind getting a few red lights because you want to kill time? Darn if all the lights aren't green and you get there super early. But when you're late, all the lights are red. And maybe even if I would love it, but maybe you wouldn't. Crossing arms come down over railroad tracks and you have to wait for a train. I would love that. I don't care how late I am, but it seems to happen that way, Murphy's Law, right? When you want green lights, they're red. And when you really want a few red lights, they stay green. Do you often wonder why it is in times of natural disasters, like earthquakes or wildfires, hurricanes, we humans, we tend to band together and we unite? Perhaps when survival was the key operative word, we work together. Hardships, negative values, turn into great blessings, positive values. And disasters are often remembered more vividly and fondly than that destination wedding or that top of the bucket list tropical vacation. We humans always find a way to embrace and overcome hardship because we thrive on it. And what we find discomfort or disease in is a feeling of not feeling necessary, of not feeling needed. And disasters foster that feeling of doing good, of being needed. Now, a disclosure, I paraphrase